Kamala's Maduro plan. Hashtag Comrade Kamala wants to raise taxes by $5 trillion. Michael Snyder reports she just can't help herself. If Kamala Harris was smart, she would not have any specific policy positions. She is not a serious candidate and she would try not to be one. She should try not to be one. Her best chance of winning is to just wave and smile a lot. When she was running on joy for the first couple of weeks, millions of Americans loved that. Of course, it was a total charade because just like Hillary Clinton, behind the scenes, Kamala Harris is extremely mean and vicious. That is why she has always had such a high turnover rate among her staff, they say. But if she had just kept running on joy, there's a very good chance that she could have won. Unfortunately for Harris, she feels compelled to tell the American people that what she actually plans to do once she becomes president. And that is a really bad thing for her campaign because just about everyone hates her ideas. For example, why would she tell the American people that she wants to raise taxes? I don't know anyone that actually wants to pay more taxes. She should just have said nothing about taxes and then raise them after the election. By telling people in advance what she plans to do, she's just losing votes. Americans for Tax Reform examined the plan that she has endorsed and they concluded that it would raise taxes by $5 trillion over the next 10 years. The biggest chunk of the new money would come from raising the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris proposing to increase the corporate tax rate to 28% from 21% if she wins the November election against Republican rival Donald Trump, her campaign said on Monday. Harris' campaign spokesperson James Singer said the move would be part of a fiscally responsible way to put money back in the pockets of working people and ensure billionaires and big corporations pay their fair share. We're being told that raising the corporate tax rate to 28% would bring in about $1 trillion in revenue over the course of the next 10 years. When Trump was president, he slashed the corporate tax rate from 21% to 21% from 35% and implemented other tax breaks that are set to expire next year. Trump has vowed to make the cuts permanent. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, a nonpartisan advocacy group, said on Monday that Harris's proposal to raise the corporate income tax to 28% would reduce the U.S. deficit by $1 trillion over a decade. But we certainly won't raise that kind of revenue if corporations start moving out of the country in very large numbers. If what Kamala Harris is proposing becomes law, we will actually have a higher corporate tax rate than communist China. Kamala Harris wants to hike the current 21% federal corporate income tax to 28%, higher than communist China's 25% and the EU average of 21%, her campaign said on Monday. The Kamala Harris federal 28% rate is higher than Asia average corporate tax rate of 19.8%, the EU average of 21%, the world average of 23.5%, and the OECD average of 23.7%. If you don't want to be called a communist, don't try to tax businesses even harder than the communists. Another element of the plan that Kamala Harris wants to implement that is causing a lot of controversy is the proposal to tax the unrealized capital gains of the ultra-wealthy. That's not even a proper accounting principle. They haven't even realized the capital gains, so how can you tax them on it? Now, according to the Los Angeles Times, taxing those unrealized capital gains is part of a scheme for a 25% maximum tax on the annual income of taxpayers with wealth of over more than $100 million. All right, guys, take a deep breath. Harris has not proposed taxing your unrealized capital gains or mine. What she has said, as the Harris campaign told me, is that she supports the revenues raisers in the FY25 Biden-Harris administration budget, nothing beyond that. So what's in that Biden-Harris administration budget for fiscal year 2025? The budget plan does indeed call for taxation of unrealized capital gains held by the country's uber-rich. That's part of its proposal for a 25% minimum tax on the annual income of taxpayers with wealth of over $100 million, a wealth tax. If you're a member of that cohort, lucky you. But at that level of affluence, you don't have grounds to complain about paying a minimum of 25% of your annual income. Maybe you agree with Harris that it's time to stick it to the ultra-wealthy. Okay, but what is going to happen when lots of them decide to move out of the United States because they don't want their unrealized gains taxed? As Chicago venture investor Robert Nelson pointed out, this proposal would have very serious consequences for our economy. Taxing unrealized gains is truly the most insane economy-destroying, innovation-killing, market-crashing, retirement fund decimating, unconstitutional idea, which was probably planted by Russia or China to destroy the economy. Dems need to run away from this wildly stupid idea. Many of the ultra-wealthy were originally inclined to support Harris. Why is she seemingly intent on driving them away? So far, I've discovered two of the elements of the plan that Harris has endorsed. There are quite a few others that are also very troubling. Having small business owners pay taxes on their individual tax returns up to 39.6% from the current 37%, imposing a second death tax, a mandatory capital gains tax at death in addition to the current death tax, imposing a 21% global minimum corporate tax rate, which goes beyond the Organization for Economic Development, OECD, current 15% global minimum tax rate, quadrupling the tax on stock buybacks, which would impact Americans' 401ks and other retirement accounts, a 30% federal excise tax on electricity used in cryptocurrency mining, a $37 billion tax on American energy, a 32% increase in Medicare taxes. This is insane. 32% in Medicare taxes. The federal government does not have a revenue problem. Right now, the federal government is bringing in about $5 trillion a year. What the federal government has is a spending problem. We are trying to live way beyond our means, but the American people just keep sending the same big spenders back to Washington. We're literally in the process of committing national suicide, and I really wish that I could get more people to understand that. The national debt has surged past the $35 trillion mark, and it continues to rise at a pace of more than $200 million an hour. Our federal government is the largest government in the entire history of our planet, and if #Comrade Kamala gets to the White House, it will inevitably get even larger. This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder. About the author, Michael Snyder's extremely controversial new book entitled Chaos is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and The Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times, and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.